Everyone, welcome back to the Dairy Raid, and today we are continuing our deeper dive into the key aspects of the Jeff Grimes offensive philosophy, and we're going to talk about play action passing, the meeting point between the wide zone, reliable, violent offensive running game and the vertical passing game, and how one feeds off the other, and you can't have one without the other. So we're going to get into the classroom. We're going to install one of my favorite play action plays and talk about how that fits into the general philosophy of the play action passing and how play action is more than just faking the run and passing. There's a lot more involved than the most simplistic approach to the scheme. And after that, we're going to take a look at some examples of Grimes using play action at Kansas and Baylor, and then also a couple examples of how we use it here at Wisconsin last season and the type of plays that I would expect to carry over, again, using the fact that Coach Grimes is a collaborative play caller and he is going to take input from the other assistant coaches on the offensive staff. So that's that. Let's get into the classroom and let's break this down. All right, so we're back in the Dairy Raid classroom and let's talk about play action passing. In the opening, talk about that play action is more than just faking the run to set up the pass. And while that is a key component, it's what is that action doing to the defense? Why are we showing that action to the defense is what's really behind a true good play action pass. So why do we play action? What is the point of using play action? And from an offensive point of view, for me, there are three key areas that I categorize my play action passing in to what response it creates from the defense or what is it trying to do for me. Number one, to improve timing. And sometimes a pass concept that you draw up, it is in that soft, sweet spot between a one-step drop from the gun and a three-step drop from a gun, especially when you're under center, when you are limited in how you can step. Using play action is a way that you can gain or lose time in the process of your drop to create better timing for routes to open up. In the gun, for me, I find it as an easy way, especially in my quick game when I'm running slants, running seams, hitches, and stuff like that. When I need just a little bit more time, or I want that ball to get into another window, that I use just a poke. And a poke play action is literally just quarterback putting the ball down, not even thinking about what the running back is doing, to create some space between the catch of the snap and the throw. So just as simple as creating timing is a big help that play action can create. All right, so another thing, obviously, when we're talking about play action is play action moves the defense. The action in the backfield is going to create a response by the defense, and it is going to cause the defense to move in relationship to that backfield action. That movement can create openings and can create new passing lanes that we want to throw into, depending on how they react. And then finally, simply, it creates an action that will allow us to move the pocket without the defense collapsing the new pocket before we even get there. The action, if we use the action to move the action moves the defense that allows us to move the pocket. So, and if anything, we use steps 1 and step 2, improving timing and moving the defense, to move the pocket. Each one of these three can be used interchangeably, but we use that action to move the pocket. And so for a good play action pass to work, we have certain criteria that we have to go through in order to help not only set the action, but set the routes behind us. And I think it's really important that when we use play action, that it has to be a supplement. It has to be used off of your most successful run actions, not necessarily the scheme, but the run actions. And it has to be used based off of how the defense reacts to that action. Obviously, the illusion of the real run play is critical. So whatever trigger the defense best responds to based off of your best run scheme, that is what the play action has to exploit. Does the linebackers, do they react based on the movement of the offensive line or the movement of the backfield? And whichever that is more critical to their reads is what we as an offense need to exploit. And obviously, a big challenge with that is being able to move the offensive line in a realistic enough way that it will cause defenses that read linemen to react without going too far downfield. Now, the lucky thing in college football rules is linemen can move up to 3 yards downfield regardless of the play, or regardless of where the ball is thrown. So that is a big help, but that puts a time limit on play action passing. You have to get the movement set, and that's why a lot of play action passes are simple reads off of that. And then following the action and following the line movement, we have to move from the idea of run blocking and taking defenders where they want to go to pass blocking and making sure the defenders are where they're supposed to be. So we not only have an effective blocking scheme, but we have passing lanes for our quarterback to throw into. So once we have determined how a defense will attack our run plays, then what we need to do is we need to try to find defenders in that defensive scheme that are responsible for more than one aspect on the field. Players with dual responsibility. It is the type of players that we can put into what I've talked about in the past as conflicts of assignment, where if they are given two separate sets, or they're given one set of stimuli, it can elicit two different responses, whether it's a run or a pass. So finding those players who are put in that, as an offensive coach, I see it as a no-win situation in conflicts of assignment, and then exploiting them. Obviously, a lot of times those are going to be your flat defenders. They are going to be your contained players, and players who are in charge of making sure that the offense doesn't get out to the flanks, but then also are responsible for the flat zones in the passing game. So those are the type of players that we exploit in a defensive look like we're showing right here. Obviously, the flat defenders, if we're in zone coverage, are going to be like the nickel backs. If they're in cover two, it's going to be the corners. So players who are going to be in direct conflict if there is both a run and a pass action on the same passing play. And then using those mismatches that are created by the conflicts of assignment and exploiting them. And being able to set up those mismatches to better affect how we as an offense can move the ball downfield. And that can be tricky, but the tricky part about it is keeping it simple. If you're playing against a team that runs a cover two defense and these corners are always going to come downhill when they see action towards the sideline, it is committing to hitting that over hook to curl to the sideline area that's uncovered until they stop. And sometimes using offenses have a problem of keeping things simple and exploiting the same areas over and over again. And then finally, the key thing that you need to pay attention to in with an effective play action game is making sure that you have all defensive coverage systems have areas that can be exploited where they are not covered perfectly. And some defenses don't care. They stick in one shell base coverage and they stick with it because they feel like it gives them the best overall chance to be an effective pass defense. But when you play against teams who use multiple coverages or rotating coverages, the areas of that can be exploited can vary. So what we have to do as a offense is identify the areas that are more likely to be exploitable, not only in the base coverage, but in the base coverage as we give them the run action. So it's those overhang players, it's the flat defenders, it's the seam curl flat players who are going to be enticed to attack the run action. Is their pass zone an area that we can exploit and an area that would be hard for them to defend if the defense gets sucked into the run action? So, a lot of different aspects we look for when we are trying to design an effective play action passing game. If you look at Coach Grimes, I think just based on watching his film and watching the offenses that he runs, is his core philosophy is using the play action as a complement to his base run games and as a way to keep defenses honest, which is refreshing compared to a lot of things that we've done here in the past. I think for the longest time, we didn't see the play action game as a complement and a necessary component of the offense. It was, this is how we run, how we throw the ball. But we weren't effective enough in causing the defense to show us where they can be exposed in coverage. When you're only sending 3 players in a route, everyone knows you're going to pass the ball anyways, the play action is ineffective. So you need to be able to use play action in every situation that you use the running game and vice versa to keep it where it is a true complement. So that's what I'm looking for. I believe Coach Grimes is going to be a lot more effective when it comes to that in the future. Again, his knowledge both as a offensive line coach, tight end coach, and an offensive coordinator is going to hopefully bring all those areas together. All right, so before we get into the film, I'm going to sit here. We're going to break down one of my favorite play action plays and how I use the philosophy that we were just talking about here and breaking down what a play action is and how I use that to set up my bread and butter play action plays. All right, so this play that we're going to go through is a play that I run off of stretch wide zone action. So it fits what we're talking about here with the Grimes offense. But what I use it for is a way that most of the linebackers that I'm going to see are going to be influenced by the run action. They are not looking at the offensive line. They are not reading the offensive line. So the action of the offensive line isn't going to influence the second level defenders. It will influence the first level defenders. So this is how we're going to build it up. So what I would be giving here is, I'm in my 1x1 set here. I'm in a condensed formation. And what I would be giving here is the stretch wide zone action of the tailback. And what that is going to do is going to create flow of the linebackers downhill, which is what I'm looking for. Backfield offensive line action, I am hard wide zone run blocking away from the call. And the reason why I'm doing that is I want these defensive linemen to work wide and try to have to come around because they're fighting the steering wheel and contain the wide zone. But when the offensive linemen get them set to that wide point, instead of just walling them off to the sideline, we're going to allow them to essentially turn back and make sure that this rush can't turn the corner and come back. So it's kind of like a step and hinge, but it's more a zone and hinge kind of play. Now, this kind of action for me will also influence the edge rusher on the play side. If he is a good quote unquote edge rusher, he is going to squeeze and look to come upfield because he wants to close the distance between the edge of the tackle and the edge of the play. So he does that, and then what I do to help sell this is my H-back is going to step down, and he is going to put a hand on the outside shoulder of that edge guy, and he's going to hold him up there for a second or two. So that's what he's going to be looking for. Let's get into the routes of the receivers downfield. So from this point here, we're going to take my Y, which is my second tight end. He's going to be releasing deep, and he is going to be running a corner route. My Z, his job is to essentially run interference at these linebackers who are coming downhill based off the run action. And then what we do is we'll run him under the first, over the second, and we'll spike him back to the back corner. Our X is going to be coming underneath and working across the formation. And as he crosses the formation, he is going to gain some depth. And then finally, after our H selves run away and help squeeze this edge player, he is going to release directly to the flat. Now, the way that my quarterback obviously is going to step down, play action. Depending where we are in the field, he may step back into a 3-step drop to set this up, or more likely what's going to happen is he's just going to semi-roll and get to about the edge of the Y and read from there. And then the way we read this is going to be a triangle read, and we're looking at exploiting the flat defender and the corner. And so what we'll read is we'll read 1 to 2 to 3. So by the time the formation gets set up, we'll be looking high-low over the top, but we're going to look 1 if we can get the whole shot. If not, we are going to go 2 to 3, and we are going to read these flat defenders. If this corner jumps downhill at any point early because he is the flat defender, because they are in cover 2 or some kind of rotation coverage, then our quarterback will throw over the top and look most likely to flatten out this corner and throw it more to the sideline. If that's not there and the corner sags, then we're going to be able to work to the flat. And this is going to get out here a lot quicker than this crosser from the X. So it'll be more like 2 to 3 to kind of hit like that. And then if that's not there, he can either chuck it out of bounds, or if you have a mobile quarterback like I do, he's just going to get out of the pocket and get what yards he can. The backfield action will help the blocking scheme will help keep away any backside pursuit. So that's how we set up. So this is an example of a play action play that I like to run. I run this action out of a lot of different formations, but the idea is essentially the same. This is a very likely play that we could see coming out of Coach Grimes going forward, because this is as old school West Coast offense as you can get. This is in every Shanahan system. This is in every, John Gruden, the famous Spider 2 wide banana. Very similar. They use different backfield or a blocking scheme than I do, but it's set up about the same. So there you go. All right, so next up, we're going to take a look at some film. We're going to look at 2023 Baylor. We're going to look at 2024 Kansas, and then we're going to look at a little bit of 2024 Wisconsin and see what we can look forward to in 2025 from the play action game. All right, here we are starting out with some 2023 Baylor. They are in, here we go, in a 12 personnel 2x2 set. And we are going to play action off the wide zone. So here we're just using the reaction to the backfield action. You can see here, the offensive linemen, they're not really run blocking. They might take that first step, but then they're going to hinge. But what we're getting off of here is the reaction of the linebackers to the wide zone action. So that inside backer widens. He's coming downhill, and that's what creates the space that we're looking for. It's not there initially. He's just taking a quick peek out here, coverage-wise. Not there. Quick peek, reset the hips. We're capped over the top, and we're going to come back with the hitch or the deep curl off of that action. Now, why this is a nice way to set up with the reaction of the defense is this flat defender right here is the guy that is going to that could take away this curl. But because he's got his eyes in the backfield, he's reading the backfield action, and now he's thinking QB contain instead of dropping into his pass zone. By doing that, that opens up the ball behind, and he is way too late. All right, next up. Okay, in a 3x1 set this time with a sidecar alignment. Okay, again, this is just a little poke. We're not even putting the ball in. We're just using the movement of the shoulders. So here, Central Florida, their linebackers are reacting to run fits based on the movement of the offensive lineman. So we see this inside backer here. He sees the space open up right here. He can see the back. He wants to step down and fill. When he does that, that creates a space behind him. And now we throw it right in that space. They're going to run a post and a dig concept here. And what would be looking for secondary is if this safety jumps the dig, we hit the post over the top. But because he doesn't and they're playing a 3-high look, the action created off of the backfield helps hold the inside linebackers down, and it creates space to throw the ball right behind. All right, and then finally, we're in a 3x1 look here. Again, just a little poke. And again, we're looking to exploit reaction to the backfield action. The offensive line pass blocking wise, they're not really showing any kind of run action. They're doing a little semi or a half slide kind of look here, but they're in pass blocking mode. We're using the defense's reaction to the movement of the backfield to not only create space, but to create timing. So we've got a 3-step drop, but we're creating that a little extra hitch step, and that's going to allow this over route to clear the umpire, clear the hash mark, and we throw it in the space right behind. If we didn't have this action, we'd be throwing the ball right about here, maybe here, and he's not clear yet. So the movement helps hold these linebackers down for their initial pass drops, but it creates the timing that allows this over route from the tight end on the backside to clear, and we could throw it into. And there we go, right there. Nice design. All right. And that's it for Baylor. Next up, we're going to take a look at some play action pass concepts from Kansas in 2024. All right, so here we are with Kansas in 2024, and they're going to give different personnel looks and different formations. So obviously, the different looks from the offense are going to elicit response from the defense. So they're in a 12 personnel grouping, but they are in a pistol eye set. The defense is going to align accordingly. And even though in this play they are only sending two receivers really in the route, by formation and by personnel, this is going to help set this up. And you get a nice deep play action off of the split flow. And that's going to hold this safety. By holding the safety and giving him something to look at, now he's going to react late. And now he's in conflict of assignment. And that conflict is going to be he hits the first blue shirt he sees, which creates the second post behind, and we take it all the way for a touchdown to Grimm here. So set up good action here. That holds the box players, keeps everybody down, keeps the safety down, high-low the remaining players, and then it's just speed. We take over the top for a touchdown. All right, so next up, we are in, again, 12 personnel in a 3x1 nub look. In pistol, love the use of motion, as always. And so here, we are going to give timing, but we're also going to get the movement. So UNLV is, again, going to be reacting to the flow of the defensive line or the offensive line, but then also the backfield action, and that creates space to move the pocket. Now, when we create space and move the pocket, now we have players in conflict. And that's going to be this flat defender here. Is he going to contain the QB? Or is he going to drop in his pass zone? He can't do both. And in this case here, all his eyes are on the QB. That gives Daniels enough time to flip his hips and get the ball to his tight end who's coming across the field on the deep crosser. And there we go. Pretty simple play. Again, only sending 3 players in the route. But this is different than what we've seen in the past where we're sending 3 players in the route and we're expecting the quarterback to find the space. Here, we're creating the space. And it's just a simple high-low design. We're taking the top off with the receiver. The formation allows him to take both the corner and the safety. And now we're going to high-low the flat defender, who is an out-of-the-box linebacker. That's a tough situation for a linebacker like that. And we pick up the yards. Not that bad. All right, so here we are finally up against Arizona State. Again, 12 personnel. We're going to use motion to create the split flow. Backers flowing downhill because they're reacting to both the movement of the offensive line and the backfield. We have our flat defenders out here with their eyes in the backfield. And even though we're only sending 2 players in the route, it's that action that creates the space. Arizona State can drop out 6 in coverage, and we can send 2 in the route if we can manipulate both the backfield action and the movement of the defensive backfield and the coverage. And that's what we do. So we're just sending a bender back to the sideline, a sail, and a post. And because our flat defender is committed to eyes on the QB in the backfield, that opens us up along the sideline for a nice game. All right. So that's a look at a couple examples of Kansas running play action. Now, let's go back and look at 2024 Wisconsin and look at some examples of how play action was ran here last season. So let's take a look. All right. So a little bit of 2024 Wisconsin. Okay, just because we don't like the play caller doesn't mean we can't like the plays. So let's take a look. We got Badgers versus Nebraska here in a 2x2. The motion is, I see, especially the zipper type motion. This is an extension of play action. We're eliciting a response from the defense. So we're working split flow. And this is, to me, this is really is an RPO because he's not sticking the ball deep enough in here for me to feel like he has an option to give this. This is just backfield action to hold this outside linebacker to get him to step down, which he does, and we're just going to throw the little stick behind it. Little basic concept, but we get that. The backfield action, or excuse me, the motion here is what's going to hold the safety from rotating downhill and occupying that spot because his eyes are on the motion, and that's what helps sets this up. Simple but effective. Next up, we are going to be in a 2x2. We're going to be a little condensed formation top of the screen. Okay, so we're running this off of power action. And you get linebackers reacting to the pulling guard. And now they can't drop in their pass zones. And we throw the ball right behind. And again, this is not play action for me, just based on I'm looking at the backfield action. And I know, having studied Phil Longo's play action schemes, that this kind of backfield action, we call poke, he has no intention of giving this. It's just the movement of the shoulders, and it's the blocking scheme that holds these defenders, not the backfield action. And that creates the space, and we throw the ball right behind. And then finally, we got an example against Rutgers. This is in a 2x2, and we're going to give the stretch action. So this is a very likely play that we could see this year. 3-man route with a delay from the tight end. I don't think Ashcraft should have been in there that long, but his job is to release late. Very similar to what I was talking about with my my play action. And we're just going to high-low the flat defender who is being sold by the blocking of the tight end here. He's looking in the backfield. He sees the backfield, but he is seeing it through the tight end. And if he sees commit inside to the run game, and that's going to allow him to want to come downhill. Now he realizes he's late, and now we're going to take a look at his reaction. And because he contains QB, we just read 1 to 2. And it's a simple little play, but it's smart design, and it's all set up by the action of the tight end. So the backfield action, does it help? Absolutely. That causes the reaction of the linebackers. Defensive line is set up through the action of the offensive line, and now we set up the flat defender to be wrong and put him in a conflict of assignment. So there we go. All right, so there we go. That is the play action game. It is more than just fake the run and throw. You have to know why you're faking. You have to know who you're trying to manipulate on the defense, and you need to know what is being created by that manipulation, and then more importantly, how to exploit the new space that's being created there. So it is what it is. All right, so next up, we're going to kind of bring it all together, and we're going to look at plays that complement some of these core concepts, the core deep passing concepts, the core wide zone concepts, and bring it all together to have a complete offense through complementary plays. So until then, thank you for watching, and we'll see you then.